All right, so starting geometry, section 1.1 is going to talk about a bunch of vocabulary. So we have to understand the vocabulary before we can move on to anything more difficult. So basic terminology and vocabulary, here we go. So a point is a location. It has neither shape nor size, and you name it by a capital letter. So if you see this image, this would be called, you can either write point A, you can do PTA for point A, or you can actually make the dot with a capital A, but the key is it has to be a capital A, not a lowercase a. A blank is made up of points and has no thickness or width. There is exactly one line through any 2 points. So this is a line. So a line is made up of points and has no thickness or width, and there is exactly one line through any 2 points. So in order to draw a line, you only need 2 points. Now, they are named by the letters that represent 2 points on the line or a lowercase script letter. So with this image on the right, you've got multiple options. You can say line M, so there's your lowercase script. You can say line with the 2 points, PQ. You also, because it's a line, can do PQ with the symbol for a line above it, which is a line with 2 arrows because it goes on forever. Or you can actually flip-flop it, the letters, and do the same thing, just because the direction on a line does not matter. Now, a plane is a surface, not plane in the sky, but a plane is a surface made up of points that extend infinitely in all directions. There's exactly one plane. You only need 3 points. A line you needed 2, a plane you need 3. Now, think of a plane like the wall of your bedroom or the wall of the classroom, the ceiling of the classroom, the floor of the classroom. Each of those are considered surfaces, and they are all flat surfaces, so they are each planes themselves. Now, when we name a plane, we name it by the capital script letter or by the letters naming the 3 points that are not on the same line. So for this one, we can call it plane K, capital K. Or we can use 3 points, again, not in the same line. So we can say plane B, C, D. Unfortunately, there is no symbol for plane, so you do need to write this one out. So point, you can use the dot. Line, you can use the line with the 2 arrows at the end. But for plane, there is no symbol for that one. All right, a couple more words here. So we have 4. So it says blank points are points that lie on the same line. This is collinear. Collinear are points that lie on the same line, and you see the word line in it. Now, points that do not lie on the same line would be considered non-collinear. So non-collinear. If we flip it to planes, points that lie in the same plane, these are called coplanar points. So coplanar points are points that lie in the same line, and then non-coplanar are points that do not lie in the same plane. Okay, the blank of 2 or more geometric figures is the set of all points they have in common, the intersection, so where they cross each other. So the intersection of 2 or more geometric figures is the set of all points they have in common. Now, when you think of 2 lines, when they intersect at a point. Lines can intersect, and lines can intersect planes. We'll put it that way. All right, so you can have 2 lines that intersect at planes, and planes can also intersect each other. So now let's take some of the vocabulary and go with some visuals here and try to pull stuff from the actual diagrams itself. All right, so here's our figure on the right. So we want a line that contains point X. So again, you've got options here. We can say XY. Again, make sure you're using the line symbol. You can say XR. You can say RX. You can say YX. If it's saying that it contains point X, you probably want to use X in the name itself. But again, you can either use the symbol or you can write out the word line. Now we want a line that contains point Z. So in this case, you could either call it RZ or ZR. Now we want a plane that contains W and R. So we have W and R. We can say plane W, Y, R. Okay, you can say WXR. The whole idea is you just don't want the 3 points to be on the same line. You also can call it plane B, capital B, just because you've got this guy down here. All right, so now let's switch gears a little bit. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take the vocabulary and we're going to name a geometric model that represents each of the objects. So it's either going to be a point, a line, or a plane. So if you think of a type rope, is that a point, is it a line, or is it a plane? Well, if you were to draw it, it would be a line. If you think about the floor is a surface, so that would be a plane. You might see something like, well, if you see the tip of a pen or the tip of a pencil, well, that's a specific dot, so that would be considered a point. All right, now let's get into some sketching here. So it says, draw and label a figure for each relationship. So we have a line in a coordinate plane that contains these 2 points. Okay, so first thing you probably want to do is plot those 2 points. So we have 0, -5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to call that A. And B is at 3, 1. 1, 2, 3, and 1. Here's B. So again, we're coming up with a visual. So it says a line in a coordinate plane that contains AB and point C that is not collinear to AB. So we know that this is a line, so we can connect it and make a line. Now it says a line in a coordinate plane that contains AB and point C that is not collinear. So if it's not collinear, it is not on the same line as A and B, which means you can put C really anywhere. I'm going to put it here. You can put it on the left-hand side of that line. There is a lot of flexibility with these diagrams. There is no one way of doing it. Everybody can really come up with their own way because that C could be placed pretty much anywhere on the figure as long as it is not on that particular line. All right, let's try another one. It says plane Z. All right, well, plane is a surface, so I'm just going to draw a shape here. And I know it's Z. It contains lines X, Y, and W. Lines X, Y intersect at V, and lines X, W intersect at P. So I'm going to draw everything has to be on the plane itself. So here's line X. Line X and line Y, here's Y. Well, they intersect at point V. But also X and W, so I need another line here. Here's W. Intersect at point P. So that would be one instance of what your diagram could look like. And you always want to go back after you draw it and just make sure that all of the words are represented somewhere in your picture itself. All right, let's go to 8 through 11, last one. So here's our picture on the right. It says how many planes are shown. So you're counting all of the surfaces. So we have the front surface, the back surface, the right surface, the left surface, and the one that's underneath. So that puts us at 5. Name 3 points that are not collinear. So one instance could be points, let's say A, E, and let's say I go to J in the back. You could also pick F. You can pick B. Let's say we pick points C, D, and if I pick C and D, let's say I'm going to pick H. So again, 2 out of the 3 can be on the same line. Oh, sorry, this one says collinear. That's my bad. That's very my bad. All right, so we have A, totally wrong. H, they need to be on the same line. That's my problem. And B. And then for the last one, these 3 aren't going to work. So I got to flip it. We can do F, B, and we can do J for that one. Okay, that's my bad. Again, most important is you read these directions clearly. That goes with anything with math. There we go. All right, 10. So it says our points A. So here's A, here's H, here's J, and here's D. So are they coplanar, which means they all fall on the exact same surface. And in this case, we have this surface over here. If I use colors to help, 3 of them fall, but J is not on that surface. Or you can look at the front surface, if we looked at a different one, and that 3 out of the 4 would fall. So you can say no. And then if you have to explain it, you can say 3 of the 4 points are on the same plane. Okay, but the fourth one is not. Or give a specific example. So like with the red shape, you can say J is not on the same plane as A, H, and D. If we try a different one here, if I flip colors, so we have B, D, and F. So here's B, here's D, and here's F. Well, those are all part of this back surface back there. So it's asking if they're coplanar, and you would say yes. They are all on the same, you could say back triangle or surface, whatever you want to call it. Okay, but very important is the vocabulary that comes into play with this section, so please just make sure that you review it. Flashcards, whatever you got to do.